innovating. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. All right, yes, thank you very much. All right. I'm super honored to be here today. I want to thank Salesbricks for putting this on, SVB, so yes, Silicon Valley Bank is still around. We have a great panel for you today. John's going to talk a little bit about what Salesbricks does, and we're going to all kind of dogpile on the idea of what does it look like to go to market nowadays. Has that changed? What worked in the past but may not be so effective today? For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brian Sparks. I'm the CEO of Silicon Valley Venture. I also have a podcast called Silicon Valley Impact, and if you're not following and listening, shame on you. And I'm also head of strategic ventures at Stack Ventures, so I wear a lot of hats. We will get into how we can help you as we move along, but I don't want to waste any time because we have an all-star cast today. In the spirit of Silicon Valley Impact, I don't read bios, so I'm going to allow the panel to do their intro, and I will just build on that. And do I need this, or is this on? Just pass it down? Okay, all right. Just pass it down. Okay. We're learning on the fly. All right. Joe?
I think we're
hot. Okay, all right, we're hot. We play a little messy around here, but we'll have fun with it. All right.
Hi everybody, I'm John. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Salesbricks. A little bit about Salesbricks. We started about 4 years ago. We are powering the first ever B2B SaaS checkout, SaaS and AI checkout for fast and high velocity startups today. One of the big inspirations of mine was my sister, who built out the very first checkout for Tesla about I don't know, 12 years ago. At that time, it was a team of 10 people who said, I don't know if we can ever sell a car online. People like buy cars in a brick and mortar store. And about 2 years ago, they celebrated over $200 billion of product processed through one URL. And so at Salesbricks, we have a very bullish idea to do the same exact thing for SaaS and AI. And after last quarter, we 4x the GMV process through our platform. A little bit about me personally. I'm a father of two very fast growing, very hungry boys, 7 and 3. And is there anybody who's a founder here who's also a father or a mother?
Yes.
So kudos to you guys and girls, gals. It's a very hard job, and you guys don't have enough respect and accolades around that. So thank you very much for building the next gen tech, but also making sure the household is in order. So I really appreciate that.
All right, Janet, you're up.
Hi everyone, my name is Janet Lee and I lead GTM at Daydream. And at Daydream we create organic growth engines for the AI era. So we help our customers increase their visibility across leading LLMs like Claude, ChatGPT, etc. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah.
Tyler, on you.
Yeah, hi, Tyler Carbone, co-founder, and I run the managed cybersecurity and compliance team at Agency. We're the leading cybersecurity provider for high-growth startups. So I really view my job, we get hired by companies that are looking to sell to the enterprise, looking to sell to companies that have security requirements. We help them meet and exceed those requirements. We also help them, our clients differentiate from their competitors by exceeding the security standards that their customers are looking for.
All right, Dan.
Awesome. Hey everyone, good morning. Dan Darcy, Chief Customer Officer at Qualified. We are an agentic marketing platform. We're responsible for a lot of the billboards you see around Piper, the AI SDR. I don't know. So if you're annoyed by it, let me know. But we also power and help over 500 companies generate pipeline. So they've hired Piper to run their inbound pipeline generation process. So previously, before Qualified, so I've been there for 5 years. I was at Salesforce for 13 years, a variety of sales and marketing ops roles. And I'll just follow up with John too from a personal perspective. I have 2 young ones, 4 2-year-olds. It's definitely hard working at a startup. Not hard.
All right, nice. Okay, so what we're going to do is kind of set the stage. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about why we're here, and we're going to talk about what it is that's going on. However, where the debate and the differentiation is going to come from is how do we get there? So there's always, when it comes to the founders, and really quick, how many founders do we have in here today? No, good. All right. I'm not going to call out the investors or service providers because I guess you don't like that. But for those of you, or John, let me start with you. Let's start with who are we here for? Who are we talking about go-to-market for? I mean, because we have the whole spectrum. We have first-time founders. We also have corporates, and we have all people in between. We have investors. But who are we targeting when it comes to go-to-market, especially from your perspective?
I think in go-to-market, there's two sides of it. It's both the client versus the customer, who's the recipient of the technology that the companies are building. But it's also the people who are trying to evangelize the product. And those are two very different jobs. Buying software is really hard. When I first started in my professional career, my boss said, hey, go buy a solution to solve this problem. And that solution costs $200,000. And there's a few competitors in the space, and I was like, shit. Oh, sorry, pardon my French, but like, that's a lot of money. That's almost more than double my salary. And if it doesn't go right, like, it's my job. It's everybody's job. They're not productive, efficient. And learning about that product is very hard. You have to do a lot of meetings, and you have to do a lot of discovery. But for me, I think what AI is doing today is both solving the buyer's job and also the seller's job. How do we make both sides and both jobs as efficient as possible so that the discovery of information is happening faster so that you can go on with your day jobs, which is very different than buying or selling software. And if you are a seller, there's just a lot of things you do that's not tied to the selling job that unfortunately ties you down.
So I would normally work down the line, but Dan, I want to jump to you and come to Janet and Tyler and say a question. You're on the other end of the spectrum. We've got a lot of founders in here, early stage, but in the role that you have as in C-suite, who is your customer? Who are you focusing on when it comes to a market?
So we're looking, we focus on the B2B marketer and marketing operations teams, especially the marketer, the CMO, sorry. What's happening right now, and I think you guys can, it's clear, everyone's here, AI is moving so fast that it's hard to keep up. I'm completely candid with all of you. It's even hard for me, I feel like I'm at the tip of the spear, but I'm really not. There's just constantly, everything is just something new every day, and it's hard, that for me is really hard to keep up, and it's scary out there for a lot of customers, for a lot of marketers. And so what we have been trying to do is really take the complexity of AI and try to distill it down into simple use cases that get out there. But I mean, it's something that I think is, by talking to people, understanding the use cases, we're trying to help bring those marketers into the future. And that's why they're choosing Qualified in a lot of ways, because we've been able to understand what's been going on, especially in the go-to-market place. And what we're trying to do is replace the old traditional funnel. And there's a lot of mundane tasks that are in the traditional funnel, that we've hired humans, of course, to continue to do these things, and it's just pointing and clicking buttons. Whereas in go-to-market, obviously, nothing is ever going to replace the face-to-face nature of selling. Especially like now, that's why, like, obviously I'm here. I want to get out here. I want to learn from all of you. I want to learn from the panel as well. Like, what's going on? What's working for you in your AI from a go-to-market perspective, and and continue to keep pushing that ball forward, because it's crazy how fast everything is moving. That I come in every day and I'm trying to challenge my team to transform themselves into becoming more AI first too.
I can go down a rabbit hole with you as the rest of you about the strategy of that implementation, because it's often believed that corporate is leading the charge, but often right now you're still trying to figure it out, still learning, as you're saying. Tyler, really quick from you. You're a founder as well. We have a lot of founders in here. How did you approach go-to-market, and how is it changing for you now in the space of cybersecurity?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing for us is cybersecurity. I used to, my previous cybersecurity company, we were selling 2 cybersecurity teams, which are really a cost center for enterprises. At agency, we're part of the revenue generation process for our clients. We sell to clients who use us as part of building trust with their clients, as part of building more trust than their competitors and differentiating themselves. So when we think about where we fit in, we're in the business of helping our clients build trust. And one of the big things that I think AI has done for our industry is made trust, frankly, harder, right? I see founders all the time who have 150 pages of cybersecurity policies that they use ChatGPT to generate in 20 minutes, which is great because you have your policies, but then when an enterprise sends you a cybersecurity questionnaire, that enterprise is more skeptical than an enterprise would have been 2 years ago pre-ChatGPT. And so we're in a space right now where we have this great tool that's enabling us to create content and documents and do some work. And it's making it a lot harder for companies to establish trust and demonstrate what's real. And so, half of my job now is getting on calls with CISOs of companies Chief Information Security Officers of companies my clients are selling to, because they want to talk to a real person, a real expert about, what is this 50-person AI company really doing for cybersecurity, and how much of the documents they sent us are actually implemented versus something they generated quickly and the company doesn't live by.
Okay. And Janet, now with all your experience in the role that you're in, coming up from down south. By the way, thank you for coming in. Tyler, thank you for flying in. Appreciate that. What is your perspective on how we talk about go-to-market? What are some top of minds as we begin this conversation?
So at daydream, we have a very clear focus on who we sell to. So it's a lot of the titles have to do with growth marketing, CMOs, etc. And a lot of the times when we have conversations with these really big logos, there's a lot of question marks when it comes to generated engine optimization. So they don't really know what to think about geo. So we have a really unique opportunity is that the cards are kind of reshuffled, that you can't actually break into these corporate accounts that before we have been closed off. And so typically the three kind of problems that I see is that they might be getting a lot of LLM traffic, but they can't make sense of it, they can't influence it. That's usually one bucket. Another bucket is that they don't have the internal capabilities to create an organic engine in-house. And the third bucket is they just don't have the SEO geo expertise, and so that's why Daydream exists, and we're kind of their embedded growth partner of sorts. So for us, it's very clear, and I feel really blessed to have this opportunity to basically be the tip of the spear and lead the charge there. Yeah.
Okay. So Dan and John, I'll come back to you on this. We're talking a little about who we're addressing, and of course, with all the startups, you need to know who you're serving. You need to know your target market. With new implementations coming down the pipe with the AI strategy, what are some of the obstacles from your vantage point could be insightful for founders as you implement a strategy for AI? Where do we begin with the strategy?
Yeah. So as I was commenting earlier, obviously the trust is a huge factor when it comes to AI. I think for many years, especially from a marketing perspective, if you think about marketing automation platforms, for those who are familiar with it, you build a lot of branching logic that if this, then that, and whatever gets triggered, then it goes down this path. And that's what a lot of marketing operations folks are really used to. And getting them to trust this almost like black box of like what happens behind the scenes from an AI perspective has been, and I think, one of the bigger challenges in obviously in basic change management, if you think of it that way. So what we've been able to do and just think through this is talk through, get the marketing teams comfortable with the different use cases that we're trying to drive. And we obviously do a crawl, walk, run approach, but getting that alignment and getting that trust takes time. And and it just comes through repetition. We have created, even in our platform, a playground, if you will, that folks can train the AI on all of their specific information and then try to trick it and ask questions and see what things are going to happen and what's going to do. And then that's step one. And then we go from there to let's see how AI can really then automate and proactively drive this entire process. And then what does it do when this happens? If this natural language, they say one thing specifically, does it trigger things in the system? So it's obviously a constant iteration and a launch and iterate approach that we take with our customers to get them to drive that alignment and change in there. And it's happening more and more, especially when I think about Piper, our AI SDR. Effectively, what Piper does, just so everyone's familiar with Piper, is we handle the inbound inquiries that come into a person's website through our chat interface. But it's not only the chat, we also have other components on the website that can help convert those visitors into a lead or a meeting booked with a human. And that's kind of the goal, is like, our goal is like, let's get the AI to qualify this visitor as fast as possible and get them to a human as fast as possible. Because that's, again, where our philosophy is humans sell and robots scale. And then it's not only just on the website, but it's also email. So what happens when a visitor comes to the site, they'll engage with the AI, ask the questions, because they ask a lot of questions of the AI that they normally wouldn't ask a sales rep. And you train the AI to have rules of engagement and goals that if they say these certain keywords, trigger this type of experience or things like that. So that's what Piper does. So what we do to deploy Piper, usually what companies have is they'll have entry-level sales reps coming right out of school to answer those requests and inbound inquiries. And that is where that there's a lot of back and forth that goes with that. And so we've had customers deployed with the AI with humans, deployed with the live chat functionality, and then over time we'll chip away, like, how does Piper maybe handle nights and weekends when visitors come to the website, so that and see what conversion rates that happen on nights and weekends. And then if we're seeing that, holy crap, Piper is helping convert those visitors faster, what happens if we take that and have Piper work a certain segment of visitors that come during the business hours? What does that look like? So again, you keep chipping away until all of a sudden Piper is completely flying solo and handling all the inbound follow-up process for for visitors, and then those humans go on to the outbounding activities, or doing outbound, or they get promoted to AEs, or they do other things like that. So because if you think about the SDR role for sales development roles, the tenure is only 12 months, and so you spend the first 3 to 6 months training them. They're probably really effective for 3 months, and then they're looking at their next job for the next 3 months. And so that's why it's kind of really taking hold for us, specifically from an AI perspective, where we're helping take care of all of those little mundane tasks in the go-to-market, top of the funnel process, and then and go from there. So that's
There's definitely a lot of moving parts, and I often look at startup as like a chess game. You learn how the pieces move, and then strategy is constantly fluid. And John, you have a unique vantage point because you have a lot of founders in the room. What are you seeing in terms of strategy changing, not only for the motions that we use to go to market, but also how it changes the company? So
Salesbricks has the opportunity to see a lot of the fast-growing companies process transactions. There's actually something that doesn't change often, which is the communication with the buyer. And to me, we could talk about all day long, what changes in your motion and whatnot. What people still don't get right is actually communicating pricing and packaging. There's a lot of early stage founders out there that want to innovate how fast somebody buys a product. How can I make it go from 12 days to 4 days to 3 days? But they still haven't figured out how that customer will perceive the value and convert that into a dollar amount. And unfortunately, it's really hard for us to train these types of founders because they came out of the womb of a fast-growing era where it's like, my investor wants me to grow to $10 million tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they restructure a lot of that plumbing within the organization, but they have yet to get that MBA of pricing and packaging. But pricing and packaging doesn't end just at the closing a customer. If the customer starts utilizing your product 3x, 4x over the course of time, that will put a lot of pressure on your guys' comms. So they're using your AI product, but then you have to go pay, OpenAI, you have to pay Jeff Bezos, Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, but you don't know how to charge them more for the product that they're purchasing and using. And for us, it's really hard because a lot of our customers who don't want to learn pricing and packaging is often losing a lot of money as they grow. So for us, like, AI is definitely making them move and grow faster, but fundamentally the pricing and packaging like method, like MBA is still not happening within those businesses.
Okay. So we also want you to get involved, and Jan, I'm going to come to you next with a question. We want you to be involved. If you have something that's top of mind, go ahead. We're going to start taking some questions in a minute, but definitely this is going to be interactive. But Jan, my question to you is, we're talking a lot about automation and the strategies of how we're going to deploy AI. Where's the balance of automation and human interaction lie? You've been doing this for a while. It's kind of playing on what Dan was saying with strategy. It never takes away the trust. Where do we focus there? How do we remain balanced?
So at daydream, there's kind of two areas where I think I feel like AI is really disrupting the way that we do things. So I'm sure you guys heard of like four deploy engineers. So that is kind of basically the perfect blend of AI and human, right? So our growth team kind of parachutes into your company, really sits shoulder to shoulder with your growth team, understand your business goals and needs. But at daydream, we're using our own proprietary platforms to deliver the results, right? So historically, you would think that's high touch agency work, but now it can have venture returns because we're able to streamline so much of it, right? So that's one thing. Then in the actual selling, like my job is that the tools that I'm using probably didn't even exist a year ago. There's some tools that I'm using right now that is so game changer that that's kind of the alpha right now, the fact that you know it and that you're able to implement it. So our outbound and inbound is like chef's kiss, and so I keep wanting to improve that. So if you really want to do AI and GTM, like really like be a nerd about the tools and play around with it. If it works for you, keep it. If it doesn't, you can move on to something else. But I think a lot of people need to be open to new tools and adopt it quickly and see if it works for them. So those are the two things that Daydream really excels at.
Hey Brian, I have a question.
Yeah.
Really quick. How many of you actually drive AI in your own personal lives? And be honest, like, cool. Yeah, because I think that's the thing that I'm trying to transform my team internally as well. Is to really think about how they're incorporating, not just opening up ChatGPT and asking any questions, but really trying to put that into their personal workflows of like what they're trying to achieve and do with their daily lives. But we're also trying to do that from a work perspective as well. Because if we don't transform our own selves, like, how do you expect customers to really believe you? So I think that's a lot of the things that is very clear in this new world is like, you can't hide from AI. You've got to get into it, go all in. And then I'll say something else too that Janet just called out, which I think is a great concept. And it's, how many of you heard of forward deploy engineers? Okay, only a couple. So let me explain what that is, because it's an interesting concept.
In 30 seconds, Dan.
Yeah,
30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Yeah.
Interesting concept. So basically what an FDE is they are a resource that is super technical, sitting side by side with the customer. And then what they are able to do is work with that customer, almost like a professional services, try out AI as fast as possible, take any feedback back to the product team, and that constant iterative cycle between products and the customer is really happening fast. So no longer are CSMs like a thing as much anymore. It's more about these forward deploy engineers in the AI world.
So Dan, you talk a lot about trust, and I'm going to come to you. Talk a lot about trust. I want to pivot this to Tyler. There's the trust that people have with actually using, AI. Where does cybersecurity or security in general come into play when we're deploying AI? How do we trust the whole process from your perspective?
Yeah, well, two places. So first, the AI itself, we're seeing with the EU released their new AI Act relatively recently. We're seeing increasingly enterprises putting pressure on startups to be compliant with frameworks like the new ISO 42001, which goes into your AI governance, how your AI is designed, how it works. So one piece of it is companies are being asked to understand how their own AI works, how the product they're shipping works, to have systems in place to talk about the processes that were used to develop the tool. I think we're going to see more of that, not less. We're in this time that's different from previous rollouts of new technology, where you see startups shipping tech that sometimes their own teams don't fully understand, and for enterprises buying that in particular, that's coming up increasingly. The second piece is that cybersecurity is relevant just from the perspective that data is now in more places and held in a greater variety of subprocessors. We really view trust though as kind of an offensive tool for startups. There's of course addressing checking the boxes, but if you're building from the beginning, both in terms of your AI itself, how it's designed, how it works, but also your security, what isn't on your competitor's website? Can you say we're compliant with this framework that our competitors aren't? Can you put that in your sales deck and make all of your customers think that's important and not buy from your competitor? Can you talk about how you have different protocols in place around your AI processes? So we view trust as something that's not just a defensive, let's answer the questionnaire. We really push this concept for our clients of offensive trust. How can I beat my competitors by addressing those bites? If I can, I want to respond to one point from a minute ago on this. We made a point, a few did around kind of go-to-market speed of transaction close. We have tools like Salesbricks that let us close dozens of transactions a week that otherwise would be caught up in contracting. We've built around this though. We take really seriously though. Some of our worst customers were the easiest and quickest to close. Right? It's people who didn't realize what they were buying. People who are hoping they can get $500,000 of service out of a $50,000 self-checkout, and they kind of tried to sneak it in. So one of the things that I think is really important as we get all these tools that make transactions easier is still to strategically put in places to increase friction in the sales process. Every week or two, there's one of my salespeople brings to me a deal like this is about to close, but here are 3 red flags, and we don't let that company buy, or we don't let them buy with Salesbricks because we want to do a custom contract with them. And I think that's increasingly important. You made the point, companies are getting caught out by bad customers, and the easier it is to close without talking to somebody, the easier it is for ChatGPT to close a deal with me, the more likely it is that I wind up in a contract with a customer I've never met that AI negotiated that's very bad for my company.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good. We have a kid. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is a question for Jonathan. It relates to pricing and packaging. So we have seen sort of this idea that it's like outcome-based pricing now, and not you're going to price based on sort of the value the customer gets, or services as a software. And so what are you seeing in terms of pricing and packaging that, like, and if you could give examples, would be great, where customers are drastically underpricing or their pricing isn't aligned with the customer value, and how do you fix that?
Yeah, I think my philosophy in pricing and packaging is always trial and error. I think you have to, first of all, as a founder, you have to understand what value does my customer get, and can they actually afford it? Because I could spend $1 million on plastic surgery today, but what value does it bring to me?
You don't even.
Yeah. So I think a lot of trial and error, but what we've been seeing really successful amongst our customer base is a hybrid motion. So you have to understand when you price and you collect money from a customer, who are you pleasing? Is it your investors? Is it your customers? Is it you to cover payroll? For us, we see a lot of our successful customers take a little bit of the committed, subscription-based kind of model, but then also lever within their pricing and packaging that is tied to an outcome or the value or whatever they're consuming within the product. So as they continue to grow, yes, they're not stuck on that $5,000 per month or whatever, but as they start to use the product, there's a little bit of a charge that happens every month depending on how much they use their product and whatever value they charge.
Okay, good thing. Go ahead.
My first question would be, which of you guys are engineers? Like AI native? Okay, because I'm hearing a lot of things you guys are saying are internet infrastructure, and no one is saying anything about the AI infrastructure, which is completely different. AI infrastructure has nothing to do with websites. And I'll give an example. I work with a company, we just launched last week, on full-blown AI native. With 1,000 users as beta testers, our agent was able to generate 14 million plus in 1 week of users right now. Now, the point I'm making is, the reason why I came for this is not for the application part of things, it's for the enterprise part of things, go to market, because we just developed a trust intelligent protocol for enterprise companies. And it's based on the benchmark of what the existing protocols are. So the question now is, outside application, because I hear a lot of internet infrastructure that you guys are talking about, which is outdated completely. What strategies do you guys have for AI infrastructure that has nothing to do with websites, applications, and screen? Because the mobile phone will be out in less than 2 years.
We want to test the AI infrastructure question. I'm sure there's a ton of people in here that are going to connect with you and want to have that discussion. I can connect you with some people that have that connection. So find me after, and I'd love to chat about it. We're going to take a couple more questions, but I have 2 other questions for our panel that I'll come back to. I have signature questions. One is going to be, what's next? And what is there to get excited about moving forward? And what is it that you're doing now that you love so much? So I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to let that one cook for a little bit. And then I saw a hand go up. Go ahead.
I got a question for Dave and also for Tyler. Tyler, how are you making sure that agent is not becoming an attack surface for fraudulent behavior of cybersecurity?
Yeah, a great question. I mean, obviously, trust is our number one priority. It's actually P0 for us. I mean, it's constant. I mean, we're constantly continuing to improve that just through our CTO staying ahead of everything. I mean, that's and like we also go through a lot
Right now, like outbox, I guess knowledge. What?
Piper. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
What is in there to prevent fraudulent attack experience?
I'm not familiar with that 100%.
Tyler, you can probably take it.
Let's see.
Well, I'm not familiar with the cybersecurity of Piper, but you know, in general, there's 2 things that companies are looking for and that we recommend our clients do. So first, there's increasingly established protocols for auditing the inputs and outputs of the LLMs. Again, ISO 42001 is the model I would look at first for what's the industry standard around that. And that's both in terms of the policies of how you train it, as well as the procedures for how you test exactly what you're saying in terms of data leakage in and out. So, you know, if you think about 10 years ago, SQL injection attacks were the question, you know, I put models into put input into a form to get it to dump the database to me. There's equivalence here from that perspective. But the other piece is just from an engineering standpoint, you know, making sure that the model is segregated in a way where it doesn't have access to the wrong data. That's how this is going. Beyond that, you know, I feel like to give you a real useful answer, it's going to depend on the specific company, the specific model, the specific data. And so I don't know in the case of Piper, but for our clients, the ones who take it seriously, it's part of the risk model. It's something that every client sits down and works on and designs around specifically.
Okay, we'll take one more. Go ahead. And then
Sure. I have a question. Yeah, I'm not sure to whom, possibly Dan, but I work in sort of pre-GTM, and I work with Stanford scientists to help them commercialize their university inventions. So this is very early stage. A lot of times it's maybe a technical paper and so forth. So we're trying to think of how to productize. We're also trying to think about design partners. And this is really seeking out design partners, industrial design partners who might work with us. So I just wonder if you have any tools that could help this kind of early stage and then flow into GTM.
I think Jan, you can go to the whiteboard right away, and you have a lot of experience.
I mean, we're pretty early stage, so if they're that early, they should just like do the hard work of cold DMs on LinkedIn and posting about their ideas, writing blog posts, and like most of the calls that I have when I'm talking to clients, they come in already have read all our blog posts, tell us how great our content is, read our LinkedIn posts, etc. And then cold email, like correctly written, is also very effective. So if they have nothing but time and they have some hustle, that's how we got our first design partners. Also, a lot of design partners came from our investors. So if they're pre-investment, I think it's a little bit harder, but all VCs are more than willing to give you interest to their other portfolio companies to be design partners. So that's how we did it. And now we're past that stage, but it was a lot of hustle in the beginning because no one's gonna really believe in you until you hit that critical mass, which I think we did now, but yeah.
So I can see, I recognize a lot of faces in here. There's a lot of investors in here right now. And I think the question goes back to founder fit. It's really about, does the team have someone on this who is familiar with that particular market? You don't want it to be founder sales. You don't want to be founder-led the entire time. But getting out of the blocks in the early stages, you want someone on your team who is familiar with that market, has a lot of experience, and they can hire moving forward. The strategies and the motions will then come from an experienced marketer. Then you would bring in some of these tools to automate that strategy moving forward. So again, a lot of times the best product doesn't win. The smartest person in the room won't win. It comes back to this trust and relationship that Dan and Tyler and Janet and John were all talking about. We can come up with the most state-of-the-art stuff, but it comes down to relationships, and you need that on your team. So that would be the earliest stage.
Well, I agree with what you're saying. You know, and a lot of times you're in DM hell, you know, at the early stages, and you're trying to get a design partner. And sometimes the concept is so new, there is no sort of precedent. There's no sort of person who said, gee, I was the product manager for something like that. It may not exist. So what we're doing, you know, we continue to do that with a variety of different products in different domains. But I hear what you're saying.
So talk to somebody in here. Where's my buddy John? John, I'm gonna call you out. Where's John? John, JC. Partnerships. Talk to people who are in partnerships. Leverage their networking. Because when you're able to have those collaborations where 1 and 1 can equal 10, now you're out of the box. So partnerships may be a quick way to get back to some motions that may be effective. But I could geek out on this for a long time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Take one more and I'm going to bring it back to the panel.
Yeah, mine was for Dan and Jane. Anybody can answer. GTM changing a lot. Enterprise stacks up like resources. What have you seen like working for maybe resource strap, SME, or so? I mean, kind of answer. Get what?
I would actually say, and I can list out the tools for you later, but a lot of those GTM tools that we use are actually pretty cost effective because it is AI native, etc. Right? And so you just have to be smart about how to use it. Like obviously Clay is one that's talked about a lot. Like we use the heck out of it. And so there's like probably 10 off the top of my head that we implement. And so altogether, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. But then at the end of the day, we sell to enterprise a lot, and you can't replace like that human aspect of having to have the conversations. And if you think about your enterprise buyer, I realize that they still have so many questions. It's such a new area, so you really have to educate them and like answer all their questions about the space and be not selling. You're like a guide, right? So the tooling is cheap. The relationship, that's a skill that we will probably never fully perfect, but we're all learning that, right? So yeah.
I have actually maybe slightly different opinion from you. I actually feel like if you're a solopreneur or maybe an early stage but doesn't have all the resources, you just have to do the work. You have to struggle. You have to, you know, when I was growing up, my mom worked 3 jobs, and from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 7, we were in the car while she was on her job, and we were doing her homework, and that was struggle. And I learned to work, you know, to sleep 5 hours a night. And I think that's where founders are born. And there's a difference between the founders where they want to use a million tools. I think it's durability. I think if you are a founder that struggles, you build a durable personality. And then I think the biggest challenge a lot of people have is like, when do you stop doing that stuff and struggling with that process? And knowing when the right time is to then use a tool. It might be AI, it might be something that existed for 10 years. But that is the biggest struggle I even face today. It's like, when do I start firing myself from those jobs? So I think struggling a little bit is good. You will build a durable team and found.
But if I can just add something quick to that. You know, I think we get a lot of questions about tools or kind of sales at the early stage. The thing that AI is good at, and the thing that also your first hires are good at, is to take from your plate the easy stuff. The reality, unfortunately, and also fortunately, is that sales at the early stage is really hard. And I talk to a lot of founders who are just getting started. It's like, oh, I want to focus on operations or technology. I want to build something. I want someone else to sell it. someone else can sell it, but that needs to be a co-founder. That needs to be someone who owns the company with you. That is the hardest thing. And this idea that we're going to automate it, we're going to use tools. Tools will make it better. You know, if I like building things out of wood, I wouldn't want to do it with hand tools. But if I just bought a bunch of power tools and knew nothing about it, like that's not going to make anything good. It just means I have the ability to make bad things faster. And so when it's time to go to market, like we can scale. I can send more emails. I can produce more collateral thanks to these tools. But our company started doing well when we solved the problem of what do our customers want and who are they? And that was something that I did. It's something that my co-founder did. And so if I'm looking at founders who are early stage, like tools are great. You should use as many of them as you want. But tools are not really going to make your job easier. They're going to take, once you've solved something, tools will do the easy thing for you. And that's great. But the hard thing is always your job. And I think we make a mistake in talking about these AI tools as though AI is going to do the hard part of our job. It isn't. It's going to make easy some things that were hard. We're going to have other hard things to do.
Yeah, new level, new devil, right? Yeah, okay. Great question. I'm going to bring it back to the panel, and I definitely want to get you back to each other because there's again, I recognize a lot of faces in here today. There's a lot of great conversations to be had. I encourage you to connect, have those questions answered, connect with these guys. They're brilliant. And again, continue the conversation because we weren't able to answer up here because we all don't have the answers. None of us have all the answers. That's what the community is for. And we're going to continue to build communities like this. I'm over in a brand new building in Oakland, 39-story, 1900 Broadway. We do a ton of events, do a ton of investor relations. Come check us out. There's my commercial. All right, guys. Question I had. John, I'll end with you. Dan, I'm going to start with you. What's next? What are you going to be excited about, and what do you love about what's happening?
I mean, I said it earlier. I just love the constant learning and innovation that's happening. It's interesting just to see how, and just Tyler well said by the way on that. That was great. We're getting rid of the mundane, easy things, and it's going to build on top of that. And I just feel like AI is going to be a lot more proactive, and like these agents are going to start doing things for us. And so that is what I'm excited about for the future, specifically from a qualified perspective. We're thinking now moving from just obviously text into voice and going multimodal, voice and video. So what is working, looking, and talking to an avatar really look like? And I think that's really hard right now to even swallow, to think about that. But people are starting to talk to avatars, which is a crazy thing. So if you guys haven't used the voice functionality on ChatGPT, I would encourage you all. It's awesome. It blows me away, and I feel like I'm actually talking to someone, like one of your friends, and that's where it becomes really crazy. So anyway, that's what I'll say.
Love it. Tyler, same thing. What's next? What are you excited about? What do you love about what's happening?
Yeah. Well, I said some of this in my last answer, but I think we now have we had dropped on us a lot of new tools that do things that 2-3 years ago were unimaginable. I think what's next is kind of consolidating what's real, what these tools let us do, and then what's not real. I mean, a lot of these tools are not themselves going to solve problems unaided. And I'm excited to see that consolidation. I think right now we're in a position where there's a lot of hype and a lot of kind of magic. And what I'm excited about is, let's look 2-3 years from now. I plan to personally be accomplishing 10 times as much because I have better tools. I'm really excited about that. And I'm also really excited to see us kind of understand the role of these tools. I guess you put me in the category of people, kind of skeptical of general artificial intelligence, but I think these tools let real humans do so much more. And I'm excited to see that shake out and it adjusts our expectations of what each of us can accomplish in a day.
Okay. Janet, same question.
For me at Daydream, I'm really excited about just to keep selling more and dominate the industry, this space. But I guess as a company as a whole, we right now are one of the leaders in GEO, but I think there's a lot of other areas, maybe paid marketing, et cetera, that we might one day go into. So kind of when you have that relationship with these larger logos, it's and you do good work, it's not as hard to kind of release other products and other business lines to them. So excited to be able to extend that offering to them.
And John, Salesbricks.
Yeah, so one thing I'm super excited about at Salesbricks is seeing a lot of new customers coming in, solving a very very interesting and also very niche problem, disrupting the cargo space or disrupting the dental industry space, and seeing that business go from like 0 to 10 million kind of overnight. It's fun. I don't know if it's fun for our support guy over there, but it's great to see some massive innovations in industries that I would have never thought about, but be able to thrive in their space.
All right. Well, I love these new ideas. I love these new insights. If you want to hear more insights like this, you can listen to Silicon Valley Impact. But I can encourage you to connect with these 4 individuals today. And if you're not able to get time with them today, connect with them on LinkedIn and any other way that they're able to connect with you. But I definitely want to thank you all for listening in. And please, mingle, drink some coffee, have some fun, and please connect. Thank you, everybody.